Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus Reports. Today is January 18th, 2023, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's up out there? This is your co-host, Ben Dickerson. A straight 6 for 6 last week. If I'm not mistaken, the Bias did the same thing. I believe that was actually not that hard to pick, to tell you the truth, as far as I'm concerned. I felt great about every single pick, including the Giants, including the Cowboys.
I think the pick that surprised me most, and yes, you're right, the Bias Plus Reports were 100% last week, and you went with the bias the whole time. So that's why I sent you that congrats text. But it was the Jaguars that I had my eye on because I'm like, really? Jaguars gonna be favored over the Chargers? You know
Did
what I
you feel
mean?
that way before the game started?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I had some trepidation, that
Okay.
about the numbers. They were pretty close. It was like what, a three, something like that.
And
Bias
then,
plus score of three.
and
So
then when the game started, you were like, I knew it.
well, so I think I was in such shock when the game started. I didn't even I was probably thinking y'all screwing up my bias report, but you know, and man, that comeback was almost typical Charger, wasn't it? We'll talk about that. I'm
It's
sure
been
you'll
that
fill
kind of
us in
year.
on the details, but that we've seen them do that. But yeah, 100%. And that was the first for the year. At 100%. And we don't even gamble. We don't even like.
Not
You
really.
know, I'm such a knucklehead. I don't even really have a good idea. But and it seems to fit into a parlay when you're doing what they call a parlay, where as
Right.
soon as I think that I read something else, it's like, no, don't do the regular parlay, do the super spectacular. I'm like, I ain't got time for all that. So anyway, as I say, this is a study, the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, where we rank everything by net points and also points for, points against, and average turnover differential. That's your turnover margin. And just those simple numbers are what pretty much leads us to what we get to. So, you ready for those simple numbers, Benny?
Certainly am.
All right. So 25 through 32, other than Tampa Bay, really had no change in their numbers because they didn't play any games. They were eliminated. They were not part of Wild Card Weekend. And as you can see from that ranking there, I think these are updated rankings that include the playoffs. So Tampa Bay probably took a leg down after that loss. And so, if you have anything you want to say about any of these teams, you can. Other than that, we're going to move up to the next quadrant or quartile, I think is what we were calling it last week, right?
Yeah, quartile.
Let's see. Excuse me. All right. 17 through 24. And you'll notice what I did. And again, if you look at your headings, you have ranked team and ANP, average net points, APF, average points for, APA, average points against, and average turnover differential in the last column, all in blue. I did color the teams who were in the playoffs, even if they were, for their other categories. I had been just doing our net points. But I thought it was important to kind of see where they were, where different teams were at this particular point going into the divisional playoffs. So 17 to 24, again, none of those teams were in the playoffs. If you go over to points for, no changes there from the previous week. And then if you go over the points against, we find your New York Giants at 18th place, allowing 21.9 points per game. So that's where the Giants are defensively. And then if you go over to the average turnover differential, you see Buffalo in 18th place at minus 0.1. And that's like a 4 or 5 way tie there between 17th place going down to 20th. And then in 23rd place at negative 0.2, you see the Kansas City Chiefs. So those are about as low as the rankings go for any of the real playoff teams, especially in the areas of defense and turnover differential. So you have anything on that?
Just that the Giants' average points against being 21.9, they were able to win their playoff game versus the Vikings by giving up only 24. So they were right around their average.
All right. There you go. There you go. All right. We start to see a little more color here as we get into the second quartile, that 9 through 16th group. And the ninth, as you can see, only the Giants are in the average net points column at 12th at plus 0.1. So way to get yourself out of the basement and get up on deck. And your points for, you have Jacksonville averaging 24.2, coming in ninth, and your Giants coming in 15th, averaging 22 points per game. In your third column, your defense, you have Jacksonville coming in 12th, averaging 21.1, and Kansas City 16th, coming in at 21.7. So that's the amount of points they are allowing on average, all things considered, including that wild card game. And then, and we talked about having multiple categories in the same quartile, Benny. So your Giants are in 3 quartiles in the turnover differential. You're ninth at plus 0.2, tied with Baltimore. And maybe somebody in the first quartile will have to get up there and see who's left. But go ahead. What you got?
Okay, as you can see, New York Giants and Jacksonville Jaguars plastered all over this thing. They both basically did the same thing. They gave up a few more points than their average points against, but they really outdid their average points for in winning their games. Both teams scored 31 points in their playoff games last week, which took them over the edge and helped them along the way, even though they gave up a few more points above their average.
And you know something, Benny? It looked to me as if some of the scores got a little higher than what they were scoring during the regular season for some of these teams. I mean, you look at the Niners, what was it, like 41 points or something like that?
Yeah.
They haven't scored like that all season. So
they haven't given up 23 either.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. All right, ready to move on to the top 8? All right, here's our top 8. And again, as we like to say, or what we do is track average net points. We don't make up any numbers. There's no opinion, no conjecture. So when you see the green in that category, that's just the way it works out, where the teams that are highest in net points tend to be your playoff contenders, and also where your Super Bowl normally comes from. 1 through 8, Benny. Look who's number 1. So we scored enough. Buffalo stayed where they were, but we scored enough to move ahead of them and offset the lack of one game that put us in second place last week, even though gross numbers wise, we were in first place. So number 1, San Fran. Number 2, Buffalo. Number 3, Dallas. Number 4, Philadelphia. Number 5, Kansas City. Number 6, Cincinnati. Number 7, Jacksonville. And 8, Baltimore. So you're averaging 10.6, 10.1, 7.9, 7.8, 7.5, 6.1, 3.1 in Baltimore at 1.6. Did you hear the quote where the one guy said about the Baltimore Ravens? If we had Lamar, we would have won that game.
Okay.
It's like, man, just make the existing quarterback feel like really, you know. But that's life in the big city in the NFL. Let's go over to all to average points for. Average points for Kansas City still first place at 29.2 points per game. Buffalo in second place at 28.8. Philly 28.1. Dallas 27.7. San Fran 27.3. Still got Detroit in there, 26.6. Cincinnati at 26 and Minnesota 24.9. So you see your playoff contenders in the scoring column: Kansas City, Buffalo, Philly, Dallas, San Fran, and Cincinnati. I'll stop there for a minute. Anything you got to say about the scoring?
Not really. I'd say the cream has risen to the top offensively for a lot of these teams. I believe that most people would look at these teams, Kansas City, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and at least San Francisco. There's still a lot of Dallas hate out there. But I believe people would look at those four teams as being the top four teams in the NFL, two AFC, two NFC. From those four, we will probably get our Super Bowl contenders. I believe that is the consensus of thinking at this moment until we see what happens this week.
All right. Next up, we have average points against. Average points against, first place, San Francisco 49ers, allowing 16.7 points per game. Behind them, you have the Jets at 18.6, Buffalo tied with them at 18.6, then Baltimore 18.8, Dallas 19.8, Cincy 19.9, Washington 20.2, tied with Philadelphia Eagles at 20.2. That's 1 through 8 in the defensive slot. And I'll just finish up with average turnover differential. And again, the San Francisco 49ers are coming in at first place, averaging 0.8. That's plus 0.8 because, again, average net points and average turnover differential can both be positive and negative. Dallas is second at 0.6. The Chargers 0.6 tied there. Philly 0.5. Detroit 0.4. New England 0.4. Cincy 0.4. So that's a three-way tie. And Pittsburgh 0.2. So San Fran, Dallas, Philly, and Cincy in the turnover differential are in the top 8. The Niners, Buffalo, Dallas, Cincy, and Philly, and allowing, as far as scoring defense are concerned, in the top 8. Kansas City, Buffalo, Philly, Dallas, San Fran, and Cincy in the top 8 in average scoring. And there you have it with your top 8 and average net points: San Fran, Buffalo, Dallas, Philly, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Jacksonville, and Baltimore is the only non-playoff team. So there you go. That's where everybody stands after Wild Card weekend.
Well, I would say, just looking at this quartile, that danger lurks for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs have the type of offense that can outscore anybody on any particular day. However, when you look at team strength, teams that come in looking really good across the board, all 4 categories, you will see the San Francisco 49ers. All 4 categories, you will see the Cincinnati Bengals. All 4 categories, you will see the Dallas Cowboys. But you will not see the Kansas City Chiefs. You'll only see them in 2.
Buffalo hits 3.
Yep, and Buffalo's in 3. Buffalo's, there's a little danger there for Buffalo too.
That turnover thing.
Cincinnati Bengals defense is very opportunistic. Where are they in turnovers? Look at them sitting there at number 7.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's the game that's coming up, right?
Yes, sir. We getting ready to do those matchups with the Bias Plus reports.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting. They called that Super Wildcard weekend last week. This is now the divisional round, but I'd call it the Super Divisional round. We got some really good games coming up.
Let me just say before we go, I did enjoy last weekend. There was just so many things that made you go, "What?" You know,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
many things, even down to 4 missed field goals in the Monday night Dallas game. You know, like
Oh, I know what I want to tell you.
what's that?
So I'm in my 2 main fantasy leagues. So we had our playoff draft. So on one of my teams, my 2 quarterbacks are Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. So they were playing each other. So I had no clue what to do. I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I felt like the Jaguars would win the game, but I felt it would be high scoring back and forth, meaning that Justin Herbert, who I had pretty much been carrying all season, would get me really good numbers. And if anybody crapped the bet, if either one of them got stopped or didn't have a good game, it would probably be the younger guy, Trevor Lawrence. So I decided to go with Herbert. So I was late getting in the house. We were down in Florida. I come in, it's 27-0. I'm like, yeah, the perfect decision, Ben. Way to go. Then I watched the second half. Holy moly. He blew Herbert's numbers out of the water. I still won the game. I still won my fantasy game, but I was worried. I was like, I should have started.
Well, that there was nothing to detract from his numbers, right? I mean, in the way fantasy works, there's nothing that was going to take any of his numbers
No,
away.
we don't do minus points. He was just better. His
Yeah.
numbers in the second half destroyed Herbert's first half numbers.
We'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment when you do your little piece on the matchups. Let's get ready to make that move. All righty. First game up. There you go. There's your Jaguars. And hey, there you go. There's your Chiefs. Look at that small bias, Benny.
Danger lurks.
Favors the Chiefs.
Danger lurks.
And you know, we have to give kudos to Pat Mahomes, who lost Tyreek Hill, who was just like the danger weapon of the league, can do things pretty much no one else can do, and still pretty much took the first place in scoring. So that offense continued to click, you know, but as you said, that defense is questionable. And you know, even the turnovers are a bit questionable. But again, a rash of new receivers, or at least a new approach. They had to change a bit in what they do. They couldn't just depend on tossing that thing up to Tyreek, you know, and knowing he's going to come down with it most of the time.
Well, I mean, I'm actually starting to tire of that narrative. I'm stronger on the narrative that you bring up in reference to Brady and Gronk than I am for the one between Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. I really am, because we're talking about an Andy Reid offense here, and we're talking about a guy who can throw the ball like nobody's business, off platform and on all angles, like Patrick Mahomes. So him losing Tyreek Hill isn't as big a deal to me. Not to downplay Tyreek Hill's talent, okay? But if he can do anything he wants on anybody, then Tua would have played better. So would Teddy Two Gloves. So would Skylar Thompson, and they didn't. I mean, he had a great year yardage wise, no doubt about that.
He's like in the number 1 or 2 or something like that.
Yardage. What about touchdowns?
Well, I mean, you know, depends on the offense. You know, long story short, though, he was still very effective with Tua, and Tua is not Mahomes. So that I wouldn't take too much away from him. But relative to going back to Mahomes, he still had Kelsey. And, you know, that's the security blanket.
And the other guys, he made it work.
Yeah. You know? He made it work, no doubt about it. So congratulations to them. Bias plus scores 3.6 favors those Chiefs, Benny. Okay. What you gonna do?
Well, the Chiefs are coming off their first round bye. to host the Jacksonville Jaguars, who advanced to the divisional round by defeating the LA Chargers at home 31-30. Big win for the Jags. Trevor Lawrence threw 4 first half interceptions. 4 first half. That's only been done a few times in NFL history, to tell you the truth. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's a playoff thing or even a regular season thing, but it's only happened a few times that a quarterback threw 4 first half interceptions. He spotted the Chargers as 27-7 halftime lead, you might as well say, because it seemed like they every time they turned the ball over, Chargers capitalized and scored. But he came out in the second half and he destroyed the imploding Chargers. Swiss cheese secondary, throwing 4 touchdown passes and engineering the game-winning drive that ended in a 36-yard field goal by kicker Riley Patterson, which actually barely got through the uprights also, by the way. Defensively, the young Jags defense shut down the Chargers' run game, and they tortured Justin Herbert with 10 quarterback hits and 3 sacks. Jacksonville is hot. They are very hot. But the Chiefs' offense is always formidable. I'm not sure the Jacksonville defense will be able to do the kind of things that they did last week against the Chargers. But I feel really good about them putting up quite a fight. However, I would feel foolish not taking the Chiefs in this game. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Chiefs. I wouldn't mind seeing the upset, though. I wouldn't be mad.
Oh, excuse me. I'm looking at a next-gen stat here, Benny. Patrick Mahomes passing with and without pressure for the 2022 season. Without pressure, his completion percentage is 74.7. He's averaging 8.7 yards per attempt, and his passing TD to interception ratio is 34-5 with a quarterback rating of 119. So that's with no pressure. With pressure, his completion percentage drops from 74 to 41%, 41.1. His yards per attempt drops from 8.7 to 6.1. His passing TD to interception ratio goes from 34-5 to 7-7. And his quarterback rating drops to 57.7. And to add a little humor to the situation, this, as they say, this 61.3 drop-off was the 3rd largest in the NFL behind Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson.
That's not good.
That's not good at all.
I'm telling you, danger looms for the Chiefs. Give me some more stats like that, I'm going to change my pick.
Man, I'm telling you, it's an amazing thing. And, you know, Pat Mahomes, the mobility thing. And a lot of mobile quarterbacks in this round of the playoffs. Probably the least mobile, and he's not really not mobile, but the least mobile would probably be Joe Burrow. So you got the Jack. Well, and again, so it's funny. Trevor Lawrence has turned into a bit of a runner in the last few games of the season. So you got to see him actually do some moving and running a little bit. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that because, you know, when push comes to shove, I do believe that the coaches will go to the lowest common denominator and tell the quarterback, look, you better run and get that. I know a lot of people were saying that about Kirk Cousins. They're like, he should have ran that last play. So, all right, going with the Chiefs, going with the bias. Next up, Giants at Eagles. Last plus score of 8.9 favors the Eagles. I don't think you're surprised at that. However,
8.9?
8.9, that's not bad. That's like what?
No, that's not big at all.
But it's closer to that killer 9. I always say 9 is like a killer amount to be ahead by because you got to get a touchdown and an extra point and a field goal to beat that. That 2-point conversion ain't going to get it. So you guys are going to go into Philly.
Yep.
Hurts is, got a small question mark relative to his health. You guys are playing really good ball, and you guys are playing some 11 on 11 to match the Eagles 11 on 11. As a matter of fact, it was a very interesting sharing of information where they were talking about how the Giants run their options differently than what the Eagles run their options. But they're
Okay.
both running options, you know. So I thought that was very interesting. So okay, I'll let you go. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, obviously the Eagles are going to be at home. They got the first round bye. They're hosting my Giants, who advanced to the divisional round by taking out the Vikings on the road 32-14. So I'm hearing all bunch of stuff on the radio in reference to Hurts' shoulder. And what they're saying on the radio, the local guys, is completely different from what you'll hear on television from the non-local guys. Obviously, the non-local guys are saying this could be a problem. We're not sure. We think he could probably still be slightly injured. He's definitely not 100%, those kind of things. The local guys are saying they're believing what's obviously coming out of the NovaCare Center, that he's 100%. He had no restrictions in practice. He looks great. Everything is going to be fine. Me personally, I'm not worried about it. I'd rather he be at his best. I believe the Giants can beat the Eagles. I'm going to come right out and say it right now. I really do. Now, this was the Giants' first playoff win against the Vikings. It was their first playoff win in 11 years. And it was the Vikings' first loss in 12 one-score games this season. That's a big deal. Remember, we were talking about the ranking differential with the Vikings and how their win-loss record was better than their numbers looked. That was because they won 11 games with the difference of one score. They always seem to come out on the winning end of that. But last week, they did not. The Giants came out on the winning end of that. Daniel Jones played extremely well. He went 24 of 35, which is really accurate. 301 yards, 2 tutties, no turnovers, and he led the team in rushing, dual threat quarterback, baby. 78 yards on 17 carries. Great game by Daniel Jones. Saquon only ran the ball 9 times for a measly little 53 yards, but he scored 2 big touchdowns. Now, I got to admit, I wish I had TJ Hawkinson in fantasy because he kind of gave him the business. TJ had a big day, but they did keep him out of the end zone. And cornerback Adoree Jackson traveled all over the field with Justin Jefferson. Not all over the field, not every single play, but he traveled against Justin Jefferson on 85% of his routes. And per next gen stats, held him to 6 catches for 37 yards. I'm going to tell you right now, Eagles fans, and if it don't work out this way, please, by all means, call me up, call me names, laugh at me. But I'm telling you right now, either Devontae or AJ getting shut down, one of them. So the other one better go off because one of them ain't going to get it done. All right? I'm taking the New York Football Giants to win.
I had no doubts. I had no doubt. I'm looking here, red zone scoring. I see the Giants in the last 3 weeks are scoring on 72.7% of their possessions in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, they're behind Dallas, who's number 1. Kansas City's number 2. But the other guys, Denver, Carolina, and the Chargers are all out. They're ahead of Buffalo, Jacksonville. My Niners at 61.1%. And I'm still looking, where's Philadelphia at? Oh, my God, 40%. Not sure what's going on there, but again, that was the last 3 games. Go ahead.
Chasing big plays. They've been doing it all season. Big plays mean more to them than anything else. They're in a constant search of big plays to prove how great Jalen Hurts has become. And don't get me wrong, this is one of the more incredible turnarounds from one season to another that I've seen in all my years. That boy put in work. He is a completely different quarterback from the guy that we saw at the end of the season last year. He has really, really put in the work. He has really, really improved. No doubt about it. But it's like they're in constant search of trying to prove that he should be the MVP and constantly trying to blow teams out all the time and prove their dominance instead of just consequently, they talk about running the ball, but they don't run the ball. The fans beg for the run. They won't give it to them. They always chase big plays, and that could be their demise.
Chase big plays, eh? Well, that's a look. That's one way to look at it. I hadn't really thought about that. Now, some of those big plays is AJ running by people for 70 yards, but that's an interesting thing. We'll keep an eye out on that. But you're going with the Giants, going against the bias. Poor the guy. All right. Let's go over to Sunday, 3:00, Cincinnati. And you got two of your favorite teams. You got your Giants in, which is your squad. And then you got your favorite AFC team, the Buffalo Bills, who are going to be hosting the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is sort of the game, the same matchup that produced the problem with the young man who had the cardiac arrest. But now they're back together again. I guess their heads are straight. They're ready to go back at it. 3:00 on Sunday is when they're going to meet. I really don't know what the weather's going to look like, but I don't think Cincinnati really cares. Cincinnati is not necessarily as cold as Buffalo, but it's
pretty cold. They won't care.
Yeah, they get plenty of cold there. Yeah, believe me, I know. With my family from Ohio. So Bengals at Bills, but Ben. The bias plus score is only 2, favoring the Bills.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, I feel pretty confident that one of these teams will be playing next week against Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. I just don't know which one. The Bengals hosted division rival Baltimore last week, and the score was tied at 17 through 3 quarters, which a lot of people didn't expect considering Lamar Jackson did not play. So Tyler Huntley was hanging in there. Facing a 3rd and goal at the 1-yard line with about 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter, plenty of time, Tyler Huntley tried to go over the top of the line for the go-ahead score, but instead he got stood up, stripped, and defensive end Sam Hubbard scooped up the fumble and rumbled 98 yards for the touchdown and had a convoy of blockers too. That TD broke the tie into Cincinnati's favor, and they basically never looked back. The Bills hosted Miami and got a little bit more than they bargained for also from a team that limped into the playoffs, having lost 5 of their last 6 games and down to their 3rd-string quarterback, who also is a rookie, Mr. Skylar Thompson. And I must say, Skylar Thompson, kudos to you. He was hanging in there early on. He really was. He didn't look bad at all. He
was the last quarterback taken before Brock Purdy.
Oh, okay. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay, well, he did very well for himself. They actually took a 24-20 lead in the 3rd quarter with a fumble recovery TD. Josh Allen fumbled. They scooped it up. They scored. So the Dolphins took the lead there 24-20, but that was in the 3rd quarter. After that, Josh Allen threw back-to-back touchdowns to Cole Beasley and Gabriel Davis. The defense, which forced Miami to punt 6 times and turned them over twice, brought home the win, stopping the Dolphins on downs late so the offense could run out the clock. And that was the end of that. This is going to be a tough one. Any one of these games obviously could be your intriguing game of the week, obviously. This one, boy, oh boy.
Let me throw something else in here to help you out.
Okay, go ahead.
The Bengals were ranked 6th in net points, averaging 6.1 net points per game.
Okay.
Bills were 2nd, averaging 10.1
okay
points per game. Now, Remember we saw the Bills, they were so low in the turnover differential
Yes.
at minus 0.1. The Bengals, however, are plus 0.4.
Hmm.
So when you put the Pythagorean calculation on top of that turnover margin, it shrunk.
Josh Allen throws picks and Joe Burrow does it. It's something to think about. Both defenses will take the ball away. But Josh Allen has had a penchant for interceptions this year, especially red zone turnovers. Not good. Joe Burrow really doesn't have that problem. And thank you for that information. I think you just changed my mind. I think I'm going to go. Oh, this is. I'm taking the Bengals. I'm going to go against the bias again, and I'm going to take the Bengals in this game. Oh, I don't want
Going
to.
against your Bills?
Yes.
They might kick you out of the Bills Mafia.
That's okay. I don't think I was ever in the Bills Mafia, to tell you.
Going against the bias?
I just got a funny feeling.
Got a funny feeling, eh? Hey, look. Well, the numbers favor the Bills, but not by much. And then let me just mention something. I heard someone say that their home field advantage, which they normally would say is about a 3-point advantage,
Right?
they're saying now it's about a 1-point advantage.
What,
Apparently,
generally speaking?
yeah, they're saying apparently these teams are traveling much better.
Bro, these fans got money, man.
Oh, you think the fans traveling is helping them out too?
Well, when you say home field advantage, what do you talk about? Fans and weather.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Fans and weather, yeah. All right, Benny. That's 3 out of 4 games. We're now on the final game on Sunday. Cowboys at my beloved 49ers. You think how many times have you and I been watching the Giants versus the Niners in the playoff scenario?
There's been a few really good ones in the past, I'll tell you the truth.
I'm telling you.
I remember one where Joe Montana got blown up. I thought he died.
Yeah, is that the one LT got to fumble?
Yeah.
Yeah, they just replayed that. And then they had the one, what was it, a kick or something? And there was a penalty and there was some controversy about that field goal or the extra point or something. I think it was a field goal. And there was some controversy. And I
don't recall that one off the top of my head. It was so many.
Well, in any event, Cowboys at 49ers, bias plus score of 3.5 favors the 49ers. Now, what happened here is, the Cowboys beat the slop out of the Buccaneers. Nice big win, nice big differential, which helped move them. So they, again, the Niners at number 1, 10.6, Cowboys at number 3, 7.9. Not a big differential there. And the Niners had a small advantage in the turnover differential. So that's about it. But this should be a very interesting game. The thing I think in the back of my mind is this. NFC East had the weakest strength of schedule. So the numbers that the Cowboys have against some of the teams that they played, I don't know if they're of the same quality. Now, they're all NFL teams, so there's probably not much difference, but the strength of schedule is the strength of schedule. They put it out, they let you know what it is. And so the thing that it comes down to with the Niners, as usual, is it's about hitting. It's about crunching people. It's about playing bully ball. And now they got talent to go along with the bully ball. And I don't even know what to say about Brock Purdy. Um, Everyone's waiting for the hammer to fall, the rookie hammer to fall on for him, and he's like, okay, he looks like a rookie now. I even heard one of the commentators today completely misrepresent him relative to saying he hasn't even been under any what's the word, not contention, but
But the rest,
yeah, it's like he hasn't even been behind. And I'm like, yes, he was too. Like,
he was.
you didn't watch that Raiders game, for example? Yeah.
Right. And I don't want to hear that mess about, oh, it was the Raiders. That was a great game. And the Raiders balled in that game. They went after it. And he had to dig deep to pull that game out.
I believe we were down in the Seahawks game also at one, because I
That's
know they threw the deep ball to DK Metcalf.
early. I think so. I think you're right. I think you're right
Yeah.
on it.
So Purdy's been under duress. He's had some things he's had to deal with. He just seems to be so amazing. And the last thing I'll say is this: McCaffrey credited Purdy with helping him get caught up on the playbook. Boy, don't you love to hear that?
That's great.
Don't you love to hear that?
That's great. And I heard Jimmy G's been helping Purdy a lot too.
Somebody keeps putting that out,
Yeah.
and other people keep saying, nah. But I think it's kind of
They
funny.
don't believe it? Well, wait. Why would they say that?
I don't know. I think they just didn't want to give Garoppolo any credit. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just kind of hating on Garoppolo. I don't hate on Garoppolo. He's always been the kind of guy, and Trey said it, that he's there trying to help you.
Right.
I don't. I think that's quite possible.
So real quick, let me ask you this NFC East strength of schedule. So what the heck does that mean? Because whatever it means for the Cowboys, it means the same thing for the Eagles.
And the Giants.
Yeah, but the Giants were expected to finish last in the division.
Well, you did have the one division where 3 out of the 4 teams actually made the playoffs. So that in and of itself says,
that sounds like some NFC East hate right there, bro. I'm just saying. That's what that sounds like.
Ben, I'm not a hater.
I know you're not, but
I'm not a hater.
What you're saying doesn't even sound like it's coming from you. It's coming from these other folks, and they are haters.
I'm a fact guy. Is it a fact that the NFC had the easiest strength of schedule?
That's been reported, yes.
So I'm just putting it out there.
I personally think I could say the same doggone thing about the NFC, about the AFC West. And I could say the same thing about the NFC West, where there's only one dominant team. So, but anyway,
I understand what you're saying. But
if all the teams in
schedule is a whole formula there, and it did turn out that you had 2 or 3 teams in the NFC West that weren't what we expected them to be. So I'm sure that helped.
But my thing is, it's obvious to my eyes and my football knowledge that all the teams in the NFC East, I don't care who they were playing, they were all improved. Every team was improved. They were better. And it wasn't because they were playing weak teams. Okay? The Commanders were winning games they didn't have no business winning. The Giants won a couple games they didn't have no business winning. But they all improved along the way. It was a tough division, which means that each team in the division had to play each other twice. Those so-called easy games all of a sudden were not easy anymore. That's 2 games for each team that were not easy. So
they definitely improved. And the question with the Giants and the Eagles is, have the Giants improved more than what the Eagles suspect?
Well, let's keep that under our hats. And let's remember again, the last thing I'm going to say on this, that strength of schedule thing comes at the beginning of the season.
True.
So, our thoughts about teams at the beginning of the season, a lot of times turn out to be completely different when we get to the end of the season.
All right. Well, the bias plus score said 3.5 favor the Niners. What about you?
Well, Cowboys went on the road to take on the Bucks in a game that turned out to be an extremely balanced offense versus a severely unbalanced offense. And you know how I feel about balanced offenses. That's important to me. Dak was a magnificent 25 of 33, 305 yards, 4 touchdowns, no turnovers. The run complemented his 33 passes with 35 rushing attempts for 128 yards and another score, which guess what? Was from Dak also. I said last week, as bad as he played 2 weeks ago, there was no way he could play that bad again. Not only did he not play that bad again, but he played just as well this time as he played poorly the last time. The Cowboys defense handled rookie running back Rachaad White, and playoff Lenny was nowhere to be found. They forced Tom Brady to throw the ball a ridiculous 66 times. You're not going to win if your quarterback has to throw the ball 66 times. And these people saying that Brady needs to retire, okay, he's still got the arm strength to throw the ball 66 times. Let's not throw him away just yet, okay? He's got other issues, but his arm ain't one of them. Although the Seahawks kept it relatively close for about 3 quarters, the Niners blew it open in the fourth as Brock Purdy threw for 332 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air. And he also scored 1 touchdown on the ground in his playoff debut and his 6th career start. This is incredible what he's doing right now. 6 career starts and won his playoff debut. His 30 passing attempts were complemented, again, talk about balance, by 33 rushing attempts. And besides DK Metcalf, the defense kept every other Seattle playmaker under wraps. They had 3 sacks and 1 interception. 49ers look strong. Cowboys look strong, but we've seen the Cowboys roller coaster a little bit, where the 49ers, I think they're up to like 12 straight wins at this point. Super hot team. Go with the Niners.
Going with the Niners. You know what somebody pointed out, Benny, and it was interesting if you go back and look at some of the replays, Dak didn't have a lot of pressure. The pocket wasn't doing a lot of breaking down. And I was thinking about that stat we were just talking about with Mahomes and pressure versus non-pressure situations.
Right.
So I expect that is not going to be the situation coming up when he plays the Niners. So you're going to be dealing with a lot more pressure with them dogs coming at you. Go Absolutely. Get them, Niners. Get them. Ben's going with the bias, going with the Niners. All right, Benny. Well, we didn't have a lot of games that we had to go over. So normally here, we do the bias plus buster. But since we had no teams that we thought were going to lose that actually won, and we were 100%, there's no bias plus buster for the week. So, hey, what can I say? You know, that only happens every once in a while. Again, congratulations to you for being 100% on your picks for Wildcard Weekend. Congratulations to the Bias Plus, reports for being 100% for that. And we can go, if you want, we'll go and take a quick look at the social media, unless you got something you need to do.
No, that's cool. I must say, though, after any questions that I had in my mind about who I was going to pick to win last week were settled while we were doing the rankings report. Okay. I saw a couple numbers, and any questions I had, those numbers straightened me out. Other than that, last week's picks, that was a roadmap. That was easy. This week, completely different. This week is tough. I went against the bias twice, right? Yeah. So we'll see.
Wow. Yeah, you went against the bias twice. And again, we were talking about how we don't really gamble. I
Mhm.
would have no idea how to even play this with these 4 games. So I'm gonna have to learn about that kind of stuff because it gets to be, I hear guys talk about it with such ease, especially on TV and on the radio, and I'm like, okay, the heck's going on here. So I don't really know. Certain things I just have, more trouble than anything. It's like bonds. I hate bonds. Have to try to figure out what's going on with bonds. They're so
Right.
counterintuitive. The fumble return for a touchdown that won the game for the Bengals.
Yeah.
I called that the heartbreaker. I gave that
Exactly
play.
what it was. It's exactly what it was. Not only do you turn the ball over and the other team scores, but you were on the 1 yard line getting ready to score yourself. And John Harbaugh said the play was designed for him to go low through the line. He decided to try to go over the top.
John Harbaugh said that.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. What a decision with horrible consequences like that, man. I'm sure.
Right. Right.
And then for the coach to put it out.
Well, Harbaugh's at his wits' end with Lamar, so it's he's going to snitch on everybody. He don't care.
Uh, and then, from what I understand, Benny, as far as the University of Georgia football players and the staff
Yeah.
I understand that there was whoever the driver was for University of Georgia was speeding, like really speeding. And
Yeah, I heard about that, and I heard it was excessive speeding. I didn't hear if there was any, substance abuse or anything like that, or if he was just plain going fast. I
you
don't
know
know
what it reminded me of?
that.
What's the movie? It was a football movie where they won the big game, and the one kid got real excited and started doing spins in his car and wound up crashing and screwing himself up. It was high school though. It was a football movie.
Uh, and Remember the Titans, the player he was gunning his engine. He wasn't doing nothing crazy. He was gunning his engine, and another car came and hit him.
I thought he was doing those spinning things.
Now I think he was just kind of because they were in the street. It was like in like the downtown area, and all the kids were out and they were celebrating.
Okay, all right. But that's what it reminded me of, that situation. And then finally, I like to end with some good news. Patrick Hillis is off of the ventilator.
Oh, good, good, good.
So he survived. He's off the ventilator. And, you know, that was a piece of news that, I remember I was at the barbershop and I mentioned the guys were like, really? And I was like, yeah, you got to watch Ben and Barry on football. We try to cover stuff, people stuff. You know what I mean? That's why I let people know. Motto of the show is football is life, and life is up and down.
Well, every time I think about use chat, I kind of think about Peyton Hillis. Except for Peyton Hillis had a stretch of about a season and a half where he was actually the starting running back on the Browns.
Okay.
He put together this one really, really good season. And then he just fell off the face of the earth, became like a regular dude again.
It's
I think he had
amazing.
an injury or something.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, Benny. Any last words?
Oh, just came back from the UFFL Nationals for flag football down in Orlando, Florida. My team, it was a first time for us to go down there as a team. Some of my players had been down there previously, like last year, playing with a couple other squads, and some of the guys on my team had never been there. So this was our first time going as a team. I thought we did pretty well. We played 4 games as double elimination. We won 2 games before we got eliminated. And the 2 games that we lost were very winnable. We learned some things about ourselves as a team. I learned some things about what we need to do better, and we'll be better prepared when we go back down there next year. And in fact, I feel so good about it. Some people think I'm crazy, but we're going to get out of Division 3 and we're going to move up to Division 2. Yeah, I'm not wasting no time, man. Our offense is good enough to score on anybody, but there's a couple little things that we're missing. And our defense actually only really struggled and had trouble with one offensive approach from one team. All the other games, we were pretty much in control of what we needed to do. Nobody scored more than 2 touchdowns on us.
Okay.
So, but that's how it goes. Yeah.
And the name of this tournament, let everybody know what the tournament was again.
This is the UFFL National Championships.
Wow.
And there's another organization. There's 2 major sanctioning bodies in the country, at least from East Coast to the Mississippi. I don't know what's going on out west. The FFWCT, I believe, is the other one. They hold their nationals at the same weekend in Tampa, and we were in Orlando. And the players hate the fact that these 2 bodies are clashing heads like this, because there's some teams that would try to go to both if they could. I don't know what they're trying to do. I think they're both trying to destroy each other. But anyway, the UT Cobras from our league decided to go to the one in Tampa, and they won it.
They won national championship?
Yes, they won a national championship. Yes, UT Cobras.
All right, my old manager.
Yeah, so congrats
Excellent.
to them. Yeah, that's Bus's old team. Yep.
Yeah, wow. Fantastic.
But they went down there loaded, man. They got a track team, bro.
Do they?
They got a track team. Them boys is fast.
Jerome knows how to put it together, eh?
Yeah. All right, so that's about it there. All after that I can see is go Knowles.
Go Knowles.